Good day, everyone. This is week number 5 of our course TC112, and this time we will be opening another lesson for this week, and it's going to focus on the research on child and adolescent development. Let us just start with the identification of our objective. So we have two objectives that we need to accomplish. That at the end of the lesson, all of you will be able to explain why research is important to teachers and as well as also to you as students for now. And next will be you will read researches on child and adolescent development and make simple abstracts out of the researches you have read. So if you would like to go on to your prospectus, of course, there would be a subject that you will take sometime in third year, a research subject. That's a 3-unit subject that's dedicated for research. Now, if you might want to ask why we are talking about this, this lesson is not actually to replace the the 3-unit subject of research that you will take on third year. However, this will be a supplementary supplement to what you already know because you have research in your senior high school, or what you will know on the research subject already. So basically, these are just overviews, just hoping that the researcher inside of you will be awakened, that you will learn to love the beauty of research. All right, so by doing that, let us go ahead and try to review on it, the activity number 1 that you did. So let's go ahead and go to that activity for now. So here, on the description, on the instruction, I asked you to read each statement, and you would give your response whether or not you agree or disagree with each of the following statement. So anyway, it is not graded, so I'm hoping that you did respond as honestly as possible. So here, the first question, first statement, is research is only for those who plan to take master's degree or doctorate. If you said yes, of course, that's not the correct. But if you said no, you are definitely correct, because research is for everyone. It's not just specifically for those who will take master's degree or doctorate degree. A teacher or a student, all of us are entitled to do research. Everyone, no matter what profession that you are, no matter if you're just a student, if you're a teacher, whatever you are, it's for you. It's for everybody. Research is for everybody. Research is easy to do. Well, research is definitely not easy. However, if you are still a beginner, but if you are a seasoned researcher, it would be much easier for you to do. So it depends on the perspective. If you are a beginner, of course, research is not easy. But if you are already a seasoned researcher, it could be an easy one for you to do, but also it's going to be the same process that you would go through. So basically, it depends upon your perspective here, if you're a beginner or if you are a seasoned researcher. Research is all about giving questionnaires and tallying the responses. Of course, it's a no. Research is not just about this. If you would notice, you will just give a questionnaire or a survey to people, and that's it. That's research. There's more into it than that. That's just a part of research, because research involves the planning. Before you give those questionnaires, you actually have to think what's the method that you have to take. You identify first the problem, and out from the problem, you identify how you are able to solve the problem. Then we have the method. Then doing the method, there are different ways in how you do it. One of those is you to gather information. This could be giving questionnaires, or and then you tally all the responses. Basically, it's not just giving questionnaire and telling all the responses. Research involves the whole process from the identification of the problem up into the conclusion. Okay. Next is research with one or two respondents is not a valid research. Well, it depends on the type of research that you are doing, because there are research that would be sufficient if we only use one person, depending upon the type of research that you do. Say, for example, a phenomenological, okay, lived experiences. So it depends. But if it's quantitative, definitely one or two respondent is not a valid research. But if it's qualitative, it doesn't necessarily mean that one, many respondents would be valid already. And qualitative, it's more on what the responses of those people are. So one or two, depend for here, it depends. It could be a yes, it could be a no, depending upon the type of research that you are doing. If it is quantitative or if it is qualitative, and if it is qualitative, it focus on the lived experiences. Okay, so it depends for this item. Teacher, because they are busy in their classrooms, are expected to use existing research rather than conduct their own research in the classroom. Well, in reality, of course, this is the sad reality of this is that yes, especially in the context of in the Philippines, teachers would have a lot of workload. Aside from their teaching, they have administrative and other ancillary works, especially now in our situation wherein we are adjusting to the new normal situation of education. The teachers are very busy working on the modules for their students and then distributing it to them and then collecting and then checking. So all these are very daunting tasks. It's very tiring for the part of the teacher. However, ideally, the teacher has to do his or her own research to make his classroom teaching and learning processes would be better. So that's what is ideal. But in reality, this is what's happening. Teachers use existing researches to utilize, to apply it to other to their classroom. Well, I'm not saying that's incorrect. Well, it can help, of course, but the ideal is teachers are expected to conduct their own research in the classroom. So I hope there will be some good changes, good development for our um, education, wherein teachers will have more time to do their research. Next is that there is no need to go into research because a lot of researchers have already been conducted. Well, mm, yes, there are a lot of researchers that have been made already, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all these researches apply to all cases. Um, change occurs. These researches that have been made already may not be true to the current state already. The researches that are made 5 years to 10 years ago may be obsolete, may not be applicable to the current situation already. That's the reason why the need to do research constantly is important. What might be true years ago may not be true already this time. So there is a need. Okay, so it's a no here. Next, students are mere users of knowledge arrived at by research. It is not their task to conduct research. Well, this one is actually a big no. Why? Because you know what? If we will believe into this statement, it's just as the same that teachers are the fountain of knowledge, where in fact students have also brilliant ideas that we might not know will be better than their teachers. So that's the reason why, if you can see school activities wherein students are encouraged to do research also in the form of the science investigatory projects, students are the one who made this. technically, so hoping that they are the ones who did this. So basically, they're not mere users, but they're also producers of knowledge. Okay, and it is the task. So also the task of students to be researchers. Okay. Next, the students do not possess the qualifications to conduct research. Of course, this is a big no because all of us are qualified to do research as long as we are guided by the scientific process of inquiry. Okay, so everyone can conduct research no matter who they are, given the correct guidance, correct process. They just have to follow the correct process of it. Okay. Next is it's not worth conducting research considering the time and money it requires. Research may be, yes, correct. It requires time and it requires money. However, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not worth it. Conducting research is still a must, even if it requires time and money. It's worth it. Once you have the result, it's worth the effort because it's for the common good. So here I ask for your statement, so I'll go ahead and read once you already have responded, all of you, into the statements to this part. Okay, so now let's go back to the presentations that we have. Okay, going back here. So in summary to all the what you did in activity number one, that a teacher can be both too. A teacher could be a researcher and also a consumer of end knowledge. So a researcher and a consumer, producer and a consumer. So we become a researcher if we produce knowledge. We become a consumer if we use the knowledge that we got from the existing research from other people. So I just would like to share to you these wise words by Albert Cerndt. He was a Georgi Hungarian biochemist wherein he said that research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought. So you have to ponder in this because that's the beauty of research. We never know that there are really more into it than meets the eye. Research has more than meets the eye. Okay, so moving forward, so since we talk about the research, it would be necessary that we also have to make mention of the scientific method because research is a scientific inquiry. One important principle of research is that it adheres to the scientific method since research is systematic and a logical process. So basically, when we do research, you do a scientific method. The very basic steps that you have to undergo here is that first of all, you have to identify the problem. Next is, once you have the problem already, is you determine an educated answer or the hypothesis of that problem. Afterwards, you need to test whether your educated answer or your hypothesis is true or not by collecting, and after you collect, you analyze the data at hand. Once an analysis is done, then that's the time. Number four, you formulate your conclusions. Afterwards, you apply the conclusions to your original hypothesis, whether or not you reject or you accept your hypothesis. Okay, so if in case you're not yet satisfied with the result that you have um, yield from the process that you did, then you can redo the process again. So that's the scientific method. Just a note, it was John Dewey who made mention to all these basic steps in a scientific method. Moving forward, so in doing research, we have different designs to do. Where in fact researches that are done with high level of quality and integrity, they can provide us valuable information about child and adolescent development. So let's go ahead and um, have an introduction to all of these. As again, these are just introductions. So we will be talking about a brief description, the strength, and also the weaknesses of these um, research design. So we'll go ahead and begin with the case study. So case study is an in-depth look at an individual. So Here you can have one respondent. So going back to the statement that we did, that it's only one or two respondents are not enough or not valid for a research as research subjects. No, so case study is an answer here. So one case is enough for a case study in its research. Um, it has a strength since it provides information about an individual's, it could be fears, fantasies, traumas, experiences, also bringing family relationships and many others. It's just that we have to be very wary of the case study because since it's only one individual, it might not be true to also to other people. So we have to to exercise caution when we generalize information coming from a case study. Okay. So aside from the case study, we also have here the correlational study. A correlational study, as you have looked into its name, it's doing associations. So it's actually useful because the more strongly two events are correlated, the more we can predict one from the other. So an example of this in the field of child and adolescent development is there a correlation between the IQ of for example, the IQ level of the parent with the IQ level of the um, IQ level also of the offspring or the child. So if they are correlated, so it means there could be a possible influence on the other component. It's just that you have to be careful because correlational research does not involve the manipulation of factors. It is not a dependable way to isolate cause. We actually just, since this is descriptive, we only have in correlational study, we just make associations on two events or two cases or two samples. Okay. So another from correlation, aside from correlational study, is cross-sectional. A cross-sectional study is a research strategy in which individuals of different ages are compared at one time. Um, one of its strengths is that it allows them to record, the researchers are, it allows the researchers to record and monitor developmental trends, and at the same time, weakness of this type of study is that it gives no information about how individuals change or about the stability of their characteristics. Um, so that's what cross-sectional is. So just for example, um, a children or people of different age, for example, a child ranging from a child, 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 20-year-old. We have to, as a researcher, we would look into how these children or how these people of different ages would respond to different situation the given a stimulus. So we look where we the researchers would record and monitor the trends by on their answers based on those situations. So it could be an example of a cross-sectional research. Okay, so aside from cross-sectional research is an experimental study. So here, this is one of the most common research design that we know, wherein this design determines cause and effect relationships. So example of an experimental design in child and adolescent development, for example, in teaching a child to do a certain task. So which is more effective? Does the child learn effectively if the child learns him by himself or by herself? So we do an experiment. So first is that the child will just do the task on his own, and another one here, another scenario is the child will do the task with a guidance from another person or an adult, so which is more effective in terms of learning for the child. So there's an experiment. So whether there is an effect if the help from that adult gives gives a result, if there's a cause and effect relationship that happened there. So its strength can be shown that the only true reliable method of establishing cause and effect, okay, is the experimental. However, we have to take note that experimental research is limited to what is observable, testable, and manipulable. So here, because you are only just looking at that specific aspects of your experiment, there might be other perspectives that you have missed. Okay, so that's one of the um, limitations that we have to take note in an experimental study. Aside from the experimental study is a naturalistic observation in which this is a research design that focuses on children's experiences in natural settings. So one of the advantage here is that this type of research allows the researcher to directly observe the subject in a natural setting. So there is no influence coming from the researcher. There is no experimentation because the teacher or the researcher here is observing in natural setting. What are the experiences of the child? Okay, no manipulation of the data, just pure naturalistic observation. However, a disadvantage of this design is that it only include the fact that it can be difficult to determine the exact cause of behavior, and the experimenter cannot control outside variables. So here, what in naturalistic observation is just what you see is what you get, nothing more, nothing less. You cannot control the behavior, you cannot do an experiment, and you cannot control the other variables that could affect what you are observing. That's just the weakness of this research design. What we also have here a longitudinal study. So this research design studies and follows through a single group over a period of time. So an example of this may be twin studies. Maybe you can research this to research some research journals, twin studies. There are these type of research lasts for like 20 to 50 years. So it's very long. And the strength of this is that it allows the researchers to record and monitor developmental trends. So this could be the result here. It could be give a very substantial information. It's just that this type of research is expensive because it takes time and also time consuming. Maybe since it could last very long, researchers could, you know, um, not really looking forward to it, but there might be a chance that researchers could die, well, even if the research is not yet done. So that's a longitudinal study. Um, Also here is the sequential. This is a combined cross-sectional and longitudinal approaches to learn about lifespan development, and also another one here, similar with the longitudinal study, is that it allows the researchers to record monthly developmental trends, and at the same time still having the same weakness. It's very complex, very expensive, and time consuming. Okay, and last one is an action research. Action research is usually done by teachers in their classrooms, wherein, just a note is, if there is a problem, then the teacher, the researcher as the teacher as a researcher would find a solution on that problem and make an action of it. Okay, so an action research, basically it's a reflective process of progressive problem solving, just what I said a while ago, led by individuals working with other teams or as part of community practice to improve the way they address issues and solve problems. A very good strength of this research design is that it is appropriate in a particular setting when the purpose of the study is to create changes and gain information on processes and outcome of the strategies used. Um, it's just that one weakness of this is that it typically takes place in one organization only at a particular time and cannot be interpreted within different organizations in the same way, just like what we did. So if a teacher make an action research of the problem of his or her students in a classroom about their readings, so we cannot actually use that result on different settings, different schools, because that action research is focused only to the setting of your classroom. So that's one weakness of this. So basically, everyone, those are the different research designs. So I know these are just um, introduction. Maybe you have already known this when you were still in senior high school, maybe not, but no need to worry as long as um, you little by little you will love research, then you will really look into the value of these things that we are discussing right now. So those are the research designs. At this time, there are different research gathering techniques. So we have here observation, very familiar review, the interviews and questionnaires, also standardized. So this could be questions coming from the reliable sources. For example, the IQ test, wherein used in the if you have already used it in the guidance, since you're still first year, the IQ test. If you have taken this, it's a standardized test. For example, also the National Achievement Test. It's actually a standardized test, so this could be a one-way of data gathering technique. We also have physiological measures, the measuring of your the bodies, any dimension of your body, and observation. We also have here the life history records. Could be your like the health reports. Those are the data gathering techniques. So since we are talking about research, of course, it is inevitable that we also have to talk ethical principles. So there are different ethical principles that we also have to take note as we do research. So make it sure that um, we do not violate human rights and the obligation of every researcher is that to make sure that all the research subjects, the respondents or the participants will be safe. So all of these ethics, so you can look into those documents. The key points here, the bottom line for doing research in in upholding and abiding with the ethical principles is that first, making it sure that when you do research, you must never harm the children involved, either physically or psychologically. Next is that make it sure that there is an informed consent. Number two, informed consent is the key. Whatever you are doing in your research, you have to make it sure that the research participants, research subjects, know what information you take out from them and how are you going to use the information that you take from them. Okay, next is number three is that make it sure that children's questions about research should be answered in truthful manner in a way that children can understand. So if in the middle children would ask why are you asking these questions, you have to make it sure that you say that you're doing it for research and you do not tell it in a um, technical term. It has to be in a language that can be understood by children. Fourth is that you respect privacy. So whatever information that you take from these people, especially children, you make it sure that information would be kept confidential to respect their privacy because we have here this Data Privacy Act 2012. If we violate certain provisions here, we could be punished accordingly. Um, Next, we have also here um, the impact of teachers' research involvement on the teachers. Okay, so if you will be a teacher that you do research, so basically these words are not my words. These results are the product also of research. So these researches done by these people are um, made sure that what are the influence or how what does the research bring to those teachers who do research. Basically for the first one here, um, teachers who do research become more reflective, more critical, and analytical in their teaching. They are open and committed to professional development. Also, they become more deliberate in their decision making, making them have this professional disposition of life learning and also reflective and mindful teaching. And also we have here that teachers who engage in research may lead to rethinking and reconstructing what it means to be a teacher. They become, they learn how to, the teaching is inherently connected to learning to inquire. So basically, these researchers believe that when you do research as a teacher, it's actually the same with learning also to inquire. So basically, those are all the introduction. I hope you understand the things that I have discussed for you. At this point, now you are ready to do our activity number 3 and activity number 4 in the LMS. But if you are not yet able to grasp what I have just said to you, you can just repeat the video again and go over the parts where you have difficulty understanding of the first time that you listen to. All right, no worries, everyone. Just take your time. You just have to relax. So that's it for our discussion for this week. I hope you have a great day and do activity number 3 and activity number 4 in our LMS.